Hello APCSA students, we are on the home stretch here. You've got one last programming assignment to turn in. It's called RandomWrite, and I want to go over the requirements for RandomWrite and just talk a little bit about it. Maybe fill in some holes that are left by the directions. I've talked to some students in the last couple of days via email and also in my tutorial session, and I think I can maybe fill some things in for you. So let's take a look at RandomWrite. I would suggest that the first thing you do is you open up a text file, and you'll need open file, and you're going to read in one line at a time, right? So if I'm using Gettysburg here as our example, the g.txt file, and you pick up the first line, and then you pick up the next line, and the third line, and the fourth line, and you just add them all to one big string, right? Just one after the other, just add them all together. And then when you get to the last line, you're going to need to have a little bit of a wraparound, right? You're going to have to use this, your string, and again, you're taking everything together, all in one big string, but then at the very end, you're going to need to wrap around, and you'll need to add part of at least the first line here. And how much you need to add is dependent upon what the key length is, and I'll let you think about that and work on that. And it's okay if you go a little bit further than you really need to for the extra that you tack on, but you do want to make sure that at the very end you add a space, right? You'll need to add a space, and then you add on at least part of that first line. That's an important part of figuring out what to do. Okay, so let me give you an example here. I've got this you might imagine this is another text file, and I want to show you how you want to think about breaking things up and creating the hash map. So let's say that our key length is 2. So you would start at the beginning, and you might imagine this all is one big string, right? And I decided to use underscores here just so that we can see the spaces. And so you would, this one long string, and we would pick up the BR first, right? The BR is the first key, and we're again talking about keys of length 2, and so what would follow a capital BR, and remember it is case sensitive, so it's important that you think of this as a capital BR. That will be followed by an A, and then we move on to the next pair, assuming our key length is 2, and that would be followed by a D in this particular case, and then AD, that would be followed by a space. And you would go ahead and create, your hash map. So to start out with, you would have the key of BR, and that would go to the array list of string that just has one string. The array list is of length 1. It would just have the string A in it. And then RA would be the key. That would point to the array list of string that just has one string in it of length 1, and that's the D, etc. AD space. Okay, we'll do a couple others. So D space, in this case, is followed by a T. And then space T is followed by an H, and then TH is followed by an E, etc. And we would just keep going there. So let me talk a little bit about the repeat. So you would eventually you'd get to a BR here. Now this BR is distinct from this BR. So I'm going to use some dots here, and I would eventually get a BR, and that BR is followed by an O. And then later on I would get another BR, and that's followed by an E. So you would see that your key list already has a BR in it, and so you would add not only the BR can be followed by an O, but it can also be followed by an E when you get to this portion of the text when you're breaking it down. And then you would later on get to BRE. Well, it already has an E in it, so there's no need to add that again. There's another BR, but that's a capital BR, so I would add the Y here, and then there's a BR, and then there's an I. And of course, this is not the full hash map, right? It's just part of it, but I wanted to show you these parts in particular, right, where the BR could be followed by an A, capital BR, or it could be followed by a Y, and then the lowercase BR could be followed by an O, or an E, or an E, and you don't have to repeat the E. You really shouldn't repeat the E because it's already in there, or the I. And so here, let's say that we would start creating our output, and we would choose a key at random. So from our list, and again I don't have a full list here, but from our list we would choose a random 2-letter key, and let's say that random 2-letter key is OX. Okay, so we would start out with the OX, just choosing at random. And it's not in this list, but you'd see that it would be because we have an OX. Well, the OX, it looks like OX only appears once, and that's followed by a space. And I'm using an underscore to indicate that. Okay, and now the new key we move to the right. So now it's X space, that's the new key, X space. And I think there's only one X space, so that has to be followed by a B. And then we've got space B, and we've got several space B's, but they're all followed by R's. So I should write down that next key. So again, X space, and then the next key is space B, and that's going to be followed by an R. Okay, and then here's where things would get a little more interesting, because the next key would be BR, and that could be either the O or the E or the I, and so you would choose one of those at random. So let's say, for example, I chose the I. Okay, so then the next key would be RI, and RI, I only see that once, that has to be followed by an S, and then the next key would be IS, and that would be followed by a K, and so the next key would be SK, and that would be etc. So you'd get L and Y. And here's where the wraparound would be important, because eventually you'd have to get Y period, and that would have to be followed by a space. If that's the only one, that's a possibility, or an underscore. I'll represent it with an underscore. And then you would get, your next key would be period space, and you would have to wrap around to the capital B. And if you don't do the wraparound, then you won't get that B, and your program will not know what to do in that case. So in this case, it would be a B, and then I've got space B. Well, that's from the end to the B, and so that would have to be an R, etc. And then you're on your way. But this might be a way that to think through creating our hash map. Again, I didn't create a full hash map, but just went through the primary parts. All right, just a reminder, RandomWrite is due at the end of the day on Wednesday. I will post a end of the year course survey, and it won't be something that's attached with any points. You'll just do it out of the goodness of your heart to help me with some feedback about my course in general, and then specifically about the last 2.5–3 months with our distance learning. So I wish you all well. Thanks for a great year, and I hope you have a terrific summer. Goodbye.